Bringing a bike back to life can be quite the project, and can even cost you. With some patience, basic knowledge of mechanics and engines, and some basic tools, you can do quite a bit to breathe new life into any vehicle. Today, we're continuing to do just that with our 2015 Yamaha R3 in our journey to build a new track weapon. The first thing with an old motorcycle is that we need to remove any fuel from the fuel tank or any fuel lines. If it's carbureted, then we need to remove fuel from the carburetor and or rebuild the carburetor, most likely rebuild the carburetor. We're also going to remove the battery, which we did last time, but we're also going to inspect everything underneath the tank and underneath the seat. Something important that we always do while we're working on motorcycles or restoring a motorcycle is clean as we go. It helps clean up the bike, which makes it way easier to inspect later on. Here we're finishing up our battery repair that we started last time. Basically it just restores the battery's voltage and ensures that the electrolyte is fully charged. Then we're going to install it into the bike, make sure it's all secure, and look at that, it turns right on. Perfect. The hand pump is great for quickly removing fuel without having to take off the tank, but in this case we want to get all of the fuel out. In order to do that, we remove the fuel hose and then we're going to turn the key on and off so that the fuel pump will drain all of the fuel out electronically. If this wasn't fuel injected, we'd just simply have to open up the petcock and let the fuel drain out. With all the fuel drained out, it is now time to reconnect the fuel tank and it is ready to be filled with fuel again when the time comes. Next, we move on to the air filter. It's very important that we inspect the air filter on any motorcycle that isn't running, as it's very likely in very bad condition. Thankfully, it looks like this one's actually in pretty good shape. This bike actually had surprisingly low miles. It just hadn't been treated very well. So it's just sat for a long time, and while that's not the best, this filter will do for right now. We just want to clean everything up, clean out the inside there, make sure there's no dust, and then put it back together. Fuel removed, air filter inspected, and battery back in place, fully charged, it's time to add fuel. That way we can finally see if we can get this bike to start. What a beautiful sound. Always great when a bike starts up, especially when it's only $500. Now we let it warm up so we can rev it safely to a higher RPM. With it finally running, we add our first mod, technically, our rear spools, so we can set it up on a rear stand and safely change the oil without having to worry about the bike not being level. Remove the oil drain bolt and our very stiff oil filter that is probably the original oil filter from when the first service was completed, or maybe even before. Thankfully, it looks like there are very little to no debris on our magnet after scooping it through the oil. Now we're going to remove the rear peg that was just zip tied on. Isn't that fun? Ooh, a leaf fell out. Look at that. We're gonna inspect it, see if anything else is damaged. Looks like the master cylinder there for the rear brake is perfectly fine. So we're just gonna pop that off real fast here. Make sure to drain all the oil. Ooh, that is really dark amber. Oh, that is in bad shape. But we're draining off all the old brake fluid safely. Inspecting our old banjo bolt, making sure it's still in good shape so we can reuse it. Here's our old brake reservoir. It even has a hole for us right there. Ooh, completely dry. Wow. So yeah, the rear brake was completely non-functional. And the bolt for the actual brake lever does not want to come off. So we're gonna try and loosen it up here with some penetrating fluid. In the meantime, while that sits, we're gonna remove all the other components so we can take off the rear set completely. We're gonna remove the brake light switch here because it's completely unnecessary for the track. And we're gonna clamp up our old rear set that's broken and use a breaker bar here to break free our old bolt so we can still use it, but it was very difficult to get off. From the factory, it comes with blue thread lock, which isn't the strongest, but is meant for semi-permanent installation. Our brake lever is slightly bent, so we're just gonna swap that, clean everything up here with our parts washer, which is super handy dandy. Blow it all dry with compressed air. And there we have it. One fresh, usable rear set. Just install our banjo bolt, mount it back up onto the bike. Make sure everything is actuating correctly. And we're just gonna use a hose here for our brake reservoir while we test everything. And then eventually we will have it properly set up. Repressurize our brake, and bam! Look at that, nice solid pressure. Now we just cut the hose down to size, plug it, make sure everything's still working, and clean off all the brake fluid so that we don't ruin the paint or any other components. Put our heel guard back on. Now we're gonna get onto the exhaust. We're just gonna put the stock exhaust on from our other build. Perfect. Put our little heat shield here on and refill our oil with Motul. There it goes. Perfect. Look at that. Only a few days of work and it's already looking way better. It's running and we're just gonna make sure everything's good again. Sounding way better. Look at that. Hearing a bike roar back to life once again is always its own reward. It may be running, but it still has some work before it's ready to test ride. And until we can ride it, we don't really know what it needs to be track ready. Like and subscribe to keep up with this build. Drop a comment and tell me what bikes you've resurrected from the grave. And we'll see you next time on TrackWeapon. Build a track weapon. I have no idea what it says. Tools, wow.